Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Ghoulfriend Hour. I'm your host, Morgan Fezza.
I'm your hosty, ghosty, that, yes.
Yes.
That's what I got today. I know
Yes.
that's, I guess, still likes toast, but I gotta come up, I gotta make a list so I can, have them ready to go and I don't just put myself on the spot every week. That's okay. Also, I just
create
gotta point it out there.
have a whole list to pull from.
Yeah, this is the second episode now in a row that the intro scared me because I had my headphones on and I went to run to go pee really quick, and all of a sudden I'm sitting in the dark on the toilet and I hear boom, and I'm like, thank God I didn't pee my pants.
It is really loud.
Peeing.
It is really loud. It can be kind of like when it's like, welcome to the Ghoulfriend Hour. Yeah. It reminds me of that. What was that thing when we were kids? It was like the movie intros. Was it like THX or something? You know what I'm talking about? It would be like it would go from like low to like.
Yeah, or like, do you remember the kids' movies with the cow?
And I feel like I vaguely remember that. I feel like it's like a fever memory.
The only reason, and shout out to my father, the only reason I remember both of those intros is because he had a stereo set where he used to blast that shit like there was no tomorrow. So the neighbors down the street would hear, and we'd be like, Dad, stop, turn it off, it's too loud, stop. And I would literally be like cringing.
Yeah, the 90s, like 2000s, like movie intros, they were a little jarring. They're a little scary. So today we are going to talk about cursed movies and kind of have some like creative discussion on like thought forms and why do we think some of these movie sets and popular media that we watch is either cursed or haunted, or even just some of the places that have some history behind them. A lot of sound stages that people are not familiar with being haunted. A lot of times they'll think maybe a movie's haunted, and maybe it's not necessarily the movie, but maybe cast members have just always had weird things happen there, and it's just the sound stage because somebody has passed away, or you never know. So that's kind of what we're going to get into tonight. And I think, Taylor, do you want to start with the first one?
Yeah, let me just scroll.
You go all the way down. Just we got lots of facts. We got lots of good.
Yeah, there's a lot. My first or your first?
Or do you want to just go down the list from number one?
Well, you have a number one and I have a number one.
Oh, from your list.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I guess we could start it out with the classic first. So, if anybody has ever seen The Exorcist, like not like any of the remakes, like the original Exorcist from 1973, it was the one that was directed by William. I think is it Friedkin? Fredkin? I think it's either Friedkin or Friedkin. So I apologize if I mispronounce that. It was based on a novel by William Peter Blatty. I'm gonna just butcher everybody's last names tonight. It's okay.
Go with your first choice. That's usually the right one.
My gut's a little disheveled right now, so I don't know how much I can trust it. Basically, if for anybody who has not seen The Exorcist or is aware of what it's about, basically follows the story of a young girl, Regan. Right, Regan is her name.
Regan, yeah.
Regan. We're just Regan. I'm gonna say Regan, who becomes possessed by a demonic entity, and the desperate attempts by two priests to exorcise her. It became like a huge staple in like the horror movie world, and to this day, there apparently is just a lot of rumors or like sayings that because of this movie, it was cursed or became cursed or something like that. Like it must have brought something forward or caused some sort of demonic thing to come around. Morgan, there's some scary sound in the background of your thing.
Mine?
And like a gremlin.
I don't
know if it's your TV downstairs, but it's like it's making weird like gremlin noises.
I don't know. I wonder if there's a way to like drown out like my background.
La, 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 la,
How's
la.
that? Can you hear it anymore?
No. Okay, so it's not
Okay, I reduced like the background noise, so it might be something.
Okay, that's you know what though. I'd rather it be that than
my headphones are like noise canceling. So if I hear something through these, like it's got to be like really loud. So that's probably why I couldn't hear it.
I was worried we were getting cursed just because we were talking about cursed movies, because that seems to happen a lot. So basically, some of the things that had, and I'm probably going to forget some things. So Morgan, if you have heard anything or I missed anything, please jump in. But
one thing I do want to add in before we continue is The Exorcist, like literally, I know you kind of touched upon it, like laid the groundwork for like horror movies, and like still to this day, I have so many of like my friends' parents, like where if you say to them like, what was the horror movie that like absolutely scares you? And all of them are like, I can still remember the day I went to the movie theaters and I saw The Exorcist. And like some of them were like, I had to sneak into The Exorcist because my parents wouldn't let me see it. And like it was like some serious business. Like in that time frame, everybody was like, oh my God, this is like the worst movie that could ever come out. It's so graphic. And then, you know, we see our movies today. It's a little more wild, but.
And it's crazy too, because when you think about it, like scary movies to us now, like what would have been back then, it's like nothing to us. It doesn't phase us, especially if you're a horror movie buff. Like it's not going to phase you. But I always like sometimes I'll have conversations with my parents and they're like, yeah, like this movie back then may not seem scary to you now, but like this wasn't a thing back then. Like when horror movies first started coming out, like my dad told me when they went to go see, oh my God. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's the horror car movie. It starts with a C.
Oh, Christine.
Christine. When they saw Christine, they said it was like the most horrifying thing. Like there were people screaming. There was people like that had to leave. Like now it's just insane thinking about that. I think even too, like The Exorcist, I could have sworn.
Well, look at even Universal Monsters. Some of the first Universal Monsters, like, you know, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, like those were all kind of like way pavers, and they thought that was so freaky. And even going back to like the silent movie era, you like where you see like kind of Nosferatu-y, you know, characters, you know, like there's the silent movie era, like that's without any sound, and like people were so jarred by that. So I think it's really cool to see we've definitely gone forward in horror movie, like as in I think our peak, and I could be wrong on this, I think peak horror movie production era would probably be from the 80s, early 2000s. Like, I feel like there was a lot of solid, like, even if they were a little bit cheesy, you have Sleepaway Camp. You have, oh crap, I'm gonna blank. There's like, Summer Slasher, I think is what it's called. It's like an 80s cheesy kind of like slasher film. Prom Night, and then you had a couple of like remakes of those movies in the early 2000s, and they were all bops. But the only thing that I feel like we're kind of going backwards on is like creativity and storytelling, where I feel like a lot of horror movies nowadays, it's either like an awful remake or really too gory.
I do feel like we had a blip where we kind of like took a couple steps forward in the 2010s, because like when The Conjuring came out,
that was good. Paranormal Activity.
Yeah. Oh my God, Paranormal Activity. Like I remember, I wish I could go back. Like, you know how when you watch a movie and you wish you can like, when somebody else who hasn't watched it, you wish you could live through them because you're like, oh my God, I wish I could see it again. The 2010s, when the horror movies came out, and this is when I first started trying to get myself into those movies, I remember the absolute fear that I had, even like the freaking amount of fear that I had when I'd be on YouTube and a horror trailer would come on and I'd be like, nope. And I would just close it so fast and I'd be terrified. Like, I want that fear again, because I feel like when a horror trailer comes on, I'm just like, oh, Like, I'm excited, but I'm not
I
like
feel like the trailers show
terrified.
you too much. That's me and Matt
They do
complain about that
now.
all the time. Like, I feel like back then you had like Mr. Movie Phone, and it was
Mhm.
like 2 minutes maybe or a minute, and like it was just flashes of quick things, but it didn't really give anything
Mhm.
away. Now I feel like they put all the best parts of the movie, like the best
Yeah.
scenes, and just smush them all together in a trailer. And then when you watch the movie, there's really no like. That was my foot, by the way. I did not rip ass.
I didn't even think it was.
The only part that sucks about having a wooden chair is my skin is constantly going burr on it, and I'm like, but yeah. So like, I feel like I don't know. I have so many thoughts on horror movies, but
Yeah.
there was definitely eras. But anyways, we digress. Okay, I'm gonna let you get back on track.
So some of the things that apparently happened on set while they were filming the movie was that there was a fire that had destroyed most of the set, and the only part of the set that it didn't destroy was Reagan, right? You said Reagan before. Except Reagan's bedroom, which, if anybody has seen the movie, Reagan's bedroom is like the pinnacle point of the entire movie. Like, that's where like the exorcism happens. That's where she stays most of the movie, or like a big portion of the movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like scary to know that like a fire destroyed most of the set except for that bedroom where the exorcism in the film was happening. Apparently, several cast and crew members, including actors Jack McGowan, and oh god, what's with these hard names? I'm gonna apologize for butchering names.
Vasiliki Malieros. I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Apparently, they passed away. Well, not apparently, because they did, but they passed away right before the film was released. I don't know why I said apparently, like as if it didn't happen. Apparently, apparently. Apparently, they died before the film was released. Another name that I'm probably gonna butcher: Ellen Burstyn or Burstein. I feel like it's Burstein.
I think it's Burstein.
Yeah. She suffered a spinal injury during a stunt that had gone wrong, and then Friedkin even brought in a priest to bless the set twice after fearing supernatural interference. But you know shit's gonna go down.
Well,
when
and
you
you
have to
know
get
who
a priest
else
to come
suffered?
in.
I wonder if maybe what's her name?
Reagan?
Oh my god, Reagan, but why am I blanking? I know her name, it's at the tip of my tongue. The woman that plays her.
Well, you think I'm gonna look it up because I don't fucking know shit.
Yeah, she's so well known, and I'm like, I don't know why I can't. I'm blanking, but she was
Linda Blair.
Linda Blair. What the frick? I'm like,
You're gonna be so disappointed if we meet her.
Literally, I'm like, I had it at the tip of my tongue, and you know when like I know this shit,
right there.
but like
that's how I felt with Christine. I couldn't. It was right there, and I couldn't figure it out.
It's so frustrating getting older. Mm-hmm. I swear to God. But
we're not even that old, and it's sad.
When you hit 30, I don't know what happens. I think you just start deteriorating at like a faster rate.
I'm already deteriorating. Please, I almost barfed the other day because Patrick and I were we were in the kitchen cooking, and he went to go do some stupid move or something like that. And he goes, "Oh, I can't be doing that. I'm almost 30." And I'm like, "Don't fucking say that. I don't want to hear that." I said, "We're only turning 27. Don't get ahead. That's too much."
I'll have to send you the video, but there's this video of this kid and he's trying to like mess with his girlfriend, and he does this thing and then he goes to like get off the bed, but like he like when you push yourself upward, he like jammed his back, and then he tried to walk it off, and like he's like, "Oh my god," he's like, "No, really, I think I fucking paralyzed myself." It's
that
so
was Patrick
funny.
Yesterday. Patrick tried to pick me up like swiftly, like as if we were still in 7th grade. And it was like one of those slow motion things where he goes to pull me up and he goes, "Oh no," and then slowly sits back down. And I was like, "Damn, big bag, big bag." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Oh my
I
gosh.
feel so insecure right now. He goes, it's okay.
It's
I
okay. You
just got
should
up.
see me. I felt like Kevin Hart in Central Intelligence. I think it's called Central Intelligence when he tries to do the backflip because it like had a couple little wine spritzers at Thanksgiving, and Maisie was doing like trying to do a somersault, and I was like, "Here, I'll show you." Because like in my head, I'm like, I used to be a cheerleader. Like I'm like, how hard can a somersault be? So I like literally tucked my head and like catapulted myself forward, but something like in my neck was like, and like I literally laid out on the floor, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I couldn't move my neck for a second, and then I wasn't like moving, and my cousin's like, are you alive? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, did you hear that? She goes, I literally thought you just snapped your neck and died at Thanksgiving dinner. Like,
did she hear it?
She heard it. It was loud. I don't know. I'm convinced that I broke something and it's just hanging out back there. I don't know. It's like when you like you lose like a lug nut in your engine or something and it just kind of is just rattling around. You're like, well, we'll deal with that at a later time. So if at a certain point in my life,
neck and spine are disconnected for the last 20 years.
And then I wake up every day. I'm like, oh, why does my neck hurt? Oh, you remember that somersault you did that one year at Thanksgiving?
Yourself up.
But yeah, so what I was getting at is back injuries. Linda Blair, they had her in this like, I don't know if you ever saw it. It's almost like a body cage. So it was like her body and like her shoulders and like everything were like locked into this thing, and it basically was a mechanical contraption to fling her forward and back and forward and back. And she ended up, I think it hopefully this is the right thing, but I think she broke her spine.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So
I remember reading about that.
Yeah. And she was like in a back brace, and there was something else that happened for a while there. She was like, you know what? This movie seems kind of messed up. Like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And honestly, I couldn't even. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine.
They said she was strapped to a harness. It would repeatedly bang off her spine, and in a sequence which the bed levitates, a technical failure fractured her back, and the injury developed into scoliosis, leaving her in chronic pain for years.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's so nuts how like back then, because they didn't have like stuntman and they didn't have like now on movies they have to have paramedics, they have to have first responders, they have to have a doctor, a nurse, like they have to have all these like safety precautions and like a actual safety instructor, especially if they have like fake firearms. And back then they were just like, hold my beer, let her rip. Like, hey, we built this mechanical.
But then you had like Jackie Chan doing all his own fucking stunts like it was nothing.
I swear, they're like, hey, Jackie Chan, can you jump from this building to that one? Like, no CGI. It was just like, if you live, you live. And if you don't, you don't. Like,
that's okay. Somebody recently I just saw that's making a movie. They're doing their own stunts, and I can't. Maybe it was Tom Cruise, because I watched a video.
Tom Cruise always does his own stunts.
Yeah. Well, he was doing one recently, and apparently he like completely twisted his ankle, and you can see it on film where he jumps to another building and his ankle goes backwards. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay.
Honestly, though, no shade, but kind of a little bit of shade. It serves you right, Tom Cruise. Stop fucking doing all your own stunts. I don't feel bad for you that you folded your ankle.
His ankle went
and said, I'm out.
It said, what if I just... I don't... No, then you know what it said? It said, I don't like this game anymore. And then it tried to run away. It didn't work.
But yeah. So, all right. So tell us more about The Exorcist. Was that it? Was that it for that one?
That's all I got.
All right. So...
Yeah.
What?
Well, take it away, Penny. Take it away.
All right. So number 2, the Poltergeist trilogy. So this one's like probably one of the most well-known cursed sets. Like if you look up curse sets, it's like number one on the list. Everybody knows that this, like, it's funny because there were some interviews where people were like, I knew that set for that reason prior to like knowing what Poltergeist was even about. They just knew that it was a curse movie. And it's actually really sad, like some of the things that took place. So basically, if you haven't seen Poltergeist, 3 movies, really good, so creepy. The Reverend gives me the willies. It was produced by Steven Spielberg and directed by Tobe Hooper, and it basically centers around a suburban family whose home becomes a battleground for paranormal activity after their youngest daughter, Carol Ann, makes contact with malevolent spirits through their TV. Known for its groundbreaking visuals and chilling atmosphere. Groundbreaking. And chilling atmosphere. The first film spawned 2 sequels and, like I said, turned it into a full-fledged horror franchise. And I have to say, it's one of the first like trilogies that I genuinely enjoyed watching each movie. Like, I felt like each one was equally as creepy. The third one got a little bit, it went a little bit awry, but it was still good. Like, it still had it. Now, what I kind of wanted to talk about was a lot of the movies back then, kind of like what we were talking about. There wasn't CGI, there wasn't like all of that technical stuff included.
The good stuff back then.
Yeah, like, so a lot of the times they would really just use like real remains. And so one of the more well-known things that took place on this set was I don't think I ever got the facts on where they got the remains. I feel like maybe I missed that somewhere, but it was apparently cheaper to have like real body parts, like bones and all of that, than to pay for plastic skeletons. So the pool scene where Jo Beth Williams is basically kind of swimming amongst the skeletons, though, like, she was just thrown into that muddy pit, and it's like probably one of the most famous scenes in Poltergeist. Those were like actual real human remains. And I think because we're so desensitized, like when we watch movies and we see skeletons or ghosts, or like, you don't really think about that too deeply. But like, imagine like when you see like catacombs with thousands of skeletons, thinking about like these are not fake. It's not a toy. Like this was someone's real body at one point. Like, these are human remains that they're just kind of tossing around. Like, that can't make for.
Yeah. I think it's because we've just been desensitized since we were kids, because skeletons were a huge part of Halloween. So I think that's why we grew up really not being fazed by seeing skeletons.
And so, like, with this movie, a lot of people there was a couple of things, because a lot of people thought that there was obviously kind of getting into the thought form kind of thing. Like, there's a lot when you're focusing on a certain thing, it's almost like you kind of bring it to fruition. So Kelsey says, I'm going to donate my bones to the movies.
There you go.
Not science. We just wanted to clarify that. Honestly, same though. Like, I wouldn't even care if you just like threw me off a bridge and let me sail down a river and just melt back into the earth. Just do what you will with me. I'm not here, so bye. Use me as one of those those dummies that they use to test cars. Just ram me into a wall at 180 miles per hour.
And then watch it pop your neck bones back in place.
Literally. I'm just gonna be like flopping around like this.
You're gonna wake up, you're gonna be dead, and all of a sudden you're gonna wake back up because it's gonna crack, and you're like, oh my god, where am I?
Did you guys just resurrect me? Viking funeral, hell yeah. So a lot of people thought that I mean, I would kind of come to that conclusion that would probably be why there might be a little bit of a haunting, especially if that's not the resting place or the idea for their resting place that they wanted. And spirits have preference, so that could very well be it. But crew members were always reporting strange occurrences, equipment malfunctions, and then just like a very oppressive feeling on set, which is like just not a good sign. And then when it came to Poltergeist 2, Julian Beck, who played this is the guy I was talking about before, terrifying Reverend Kane. He died of stomach cancer shortly after filming that one. So they basically brought in a guy named Will Sampson, and he was a Native American actor, and he was a real life shaman. And he was, they asked him, hey, can you perform a real exorcism on the set after they became like severely concerned about the spiritual energy and the like massive amount of bad luck. And even after the ritual, actors and crew claimed to feel like watched and experience like a ton of bad luck. So it just was not a good filming environment. And the beloved Carol Ann, I thought this was like kind of the saddest part was in total 4 cast members died during shortly after the film's productions. So Heather O'Rourke, who played like that absolutely adorable little blonde girl Carol Ann, she died suddenly at age 12 from septic shock that was caused by an undiagnosed intestinal issue. And then the older sister, Dominique Dunn, she was murdered in a domestic violence incident. And so, I mean, it was just terrible. But then Julian Beck, like I said, and Will Sampson, both in Poltergeist 2, died from cancer and surgery complications. And so it all just circles back to the use of the human remains. A lot of people think that had something to do with it. And there's so many like different movies and different sound stages and all these things where there's constant interviews about these sets being blessed or exorcised. And I'm like, why do you think that is? Like, I genuinely would love to know what causes a cursed set or like a haunting. And I saw this TikTok where this girl, like, she's pretty well known, R.H. Davis. She's a psychic medium. I'll roll the clip so you guys can see it. Davis, R.H. Davis. So basically in the clip, it's kind of just showing her, and she says, fun fact, I am often asked to exercise film sets, especially when they're filming in known haunted places or traumatized spaces. So it's something that you don't really hear about often, but even in Poltergeist, prior to Will Sampson's death, he was brought in because he was a shaman. Well, he wasn't brought in because he was a shaman. He was there, but like they asked him from a shaman perspective, like, hey, can you kind of take care of this set? So just really interesting to kind of, see about that.
Pretty sad.
Now we got to move on to like an absolutely terrifying movie. But
yeah, you know what's crazy is that I actually, a while ago, I somehow ended up in a rabbit hole for this movie on TikTok. Like, watched video after video after video because I was so like invested. But so the next movie we will talk about is The Omen. So The Omen is The Omen. It was made in 1976, directed by Richard Donner, and it basically tells a story of a diplomat who unknowingly adopts the Antichrist, who is a young boy named Damien. The film plays heavily on biblical prophecy, eerie symbolism, and escalating supernatural terror. And it actually ended up, like, the popularity of it ended up leading to multiple sequels and remakes. Now, I never got to watch this yet, so this is on my list of movies that I still have to watch. So I don't know much about the movie, so Maureen, you know anything, jump in. But
all I know is The Omen scared the shit out of me.
But this one, I could be wrong, but I feel like this one, out of like a lot of the movies that we're going to talk about, this one had a lot of incidences, like a lot. The biggest incident that I fell down into a rabbit hole looking up information about was the plane crash. So on the set, while they were filming a scene, the actor Gregory Peck, who I think was one of the main characters, I could be wrong, but I think he was like one of the main people in the movie. He was filming a scene on a charter plane, and it was supposed to crash. It was supposed to be struck by lightning, I think. And the plane was meant to crash, but they're supposed to kill everybody on board, and then something had changed or whatever. Or no, it did kill everyone on board, or was supposed to. Whatever happened, it ended up killing.
There was like a lot of, I remember with The Omen, there was a lot of scenes that were supposed to, or there were things that happened in real life that were very reminiscent of the scenes that they were filming, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the way that they put it was that a charter plane that Gregory Peck, who starred in the film, he was scheduled to take crash, killing everyone on board. The crash had also struck a car on the road below, killing the pilot's wife and children. So it wasn't just him in the plane, it was also people in a car below. It was like a whole thing that happened. And then special effects artist John Richardson was involved in a head-on car collision during post-production. But while he survived, his passenger and assistant was killed in a way that resembled a death scene he helped create. Which is kind of spooky when you think about that.
That's like, really spooky. That was the decapitation scene, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. And then there was a couple of like animal incidences. So there was an animal handler who worked with the baboon scenes. That animal handler ended up being mauled and killed by a tiger shortly after the film wrapped up. And then there was a Rottweiler that was used in the film, and it attacked a stuntman who bit through his protective gear. I believe he's still okay. He was just like injured. And then the producer, Harvey Bernard, he just avoided being struck by lightning during the film. So that's crazy too. And then the last thing that people had mentioned was the black dog appearances.
The black dog, dude.
I don't think this is like I think this is like a supernatural occurrence, because they said just before the nanny's suicide in the movie, a black dog appears, and there's similar appearances of the black dog mentioned in the film's context. So I'm assuming they didn't know, like, that there wasn't meant to be a black dog. It's kind of like interesting to know. I kind of want to know, like, whoever's still around, like, I'd have to deep dive again into it, but like I kind of curious now, like, if they've ever interviewed the cast and asked like if they knew about the black dog, or if the black dog was meant to be there or not, because I think that's kind of spooky, especially if you see it in the film.
Yeah. The one thing I never understood was like why like movies are so hush hush about like there possibly being a curse, or like if something, like if you all are recognizing, like I feel like The Conjuring was more outspoken, like more modern day, but I felt like back then like there was some serious stuff going on, especially the common theme being like demonic movies or like religious based movies. So one of the things that I kind of want to, a clip I want to show, because I think it does relate to this, is the movie Nefarious. So like Nefarious, look at the theme of that. It has to do with demonic possession. You look at The Conjuring, again, supernatural demonic possession. I was trying, because I remember watching a really, really good thing on the exorcism of Emily Rose, because there was a ton that happened on that. And even not on a scary side, but if you look at the movie The Passion of the Christ, I
don't think I've seen that one.
I feel like why do I feel like I'm stroking out? I'm trying to think. It's like Passion of the Christ or something like that.
Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, right? I don't know why when I was saying it didn't sound right. And I was like, I feel like I'm fucking this up. But they were talking about how when they were going through that, I'm trying to think if that was the one with, there's one with Jim Caviezel. And I feel like it was, hold on. I just want to make.
It's funny that you mentioned that because next year he's actually. Yeah, it's funny that you say that because The Passion of the Christ was made in 2004, and they're actually Mel Gibson directed that movie, and he's actually making another one that's coming out next year called The Passion of the Christ: Resurrection.
See, and that's what was getting me tripped up because I was like, wait, Mel Gibson, because we watched it a bunch of times, and I'm like, why am I having a brain fart? Because Jim Caviezel he plays Jesus, and I was like, Mel Gibson directed it, but I couldn't remember if it was him because he kind of looks a little bit like Jesus Christ. So I'm like, maybe it was Mel Gibson. But either way, my point being, we watched a bunch of interviews with Jim Caviezel talking about his role in that movie. And again, not in the scary aspect, but more of a, when it comes to religion, I feel like it's very odd how, what's the word I'm looking for? Passionate and how crazy things can get really fast, like on opposite ends of the spectrum. And so he was struck by lightning. What was the other thing? That was the main thing that I remembered about that, is like there were things that he was doing scenes for that apparently Jesus Christ had been through, that he had really crazy stuff happen to him. And they always said The Passion of the Christ was like one of those movies where the set, like there was just so much that was like, oh my God, like even though he got struck by lightning, he was all right. And he was like, hey, I'm good to still do this movie. And like, so it was never anything bad enough that it like took him out of the movie, but it was almost like put him through it. So I just think it's really crazy how certain religious themes in movies can really bring out extremes. And so this is a clip from Nefarious from the fellas. I think they're directors, but we'll see.
That really confirm that when you're confronting and exposing the demonic, it is real.
The demonic resistance, by the way, to this film being allowed to be shown has been off the charts.
I mean, we've had our roof in Burbank, California, ripped off. Literally, a whole roof.
I'm not
of the
talking
building.
the asphalt shingles. I'm talking about the entire roof. And it was during the torrential rainstorms out here. And that was the only building that happened to.
We had 8 car crashes in 11 days when we were shooting. No one got hurt, but all the cars were totaled. I mean, come on. While we're shooting the scenes where we're talking and revealing the devil, the building's girders are groaning from wind. And the bottom line is we stop shooting. We get to the part where we're not talking about the devil, totally silent. The wind disappears.
We've been told
go back to shooting about the devil. It comes again. We had a priest. We had a ministry team on set. The priest's appendix explodes.
Wow.
Okay. We're talking about many of the major players that were involved with us. Steve Dace was in the hospital, almost died from a mysterious infection.
The night before our release.
Everybody came to pray over him, and suddenly he's healed. It's tip of the iceberg.
Our marketing chief on the way home, and it's this critical time on the flight home from an drum perforated.
He was.
Out of nowhere.
We're
out of nowhere.
So what we're talking about here, and what we're talking about here is obviously if you agitate the devil, if you go to war against the devil, he fights back. He doesn't want to be revealed. And I'm telling you, your audience should not be scared. They should be
Yeah, so he's so very passionate. That's the only
one on the
right
was like, fuck, can I get a word? Shit. That's how I feel sometimes. I don't know when to cut in at the right time with conversations. I'm like,
I feel like that's like a perfect representation of like neurodivergent conversations.
Yes.
Because like when you have a neurodivergent conversation with somebody that's not neurodivergent, they're like, hey, and you're like, and listen, I gotta tell you about this thing. And you're like, and then this, and this led to this, and then you're like, oh my God, I need to calm down. I need to calm down.
So how's when you're passionate about something?
But like, how crazy is that? Like, rip the roof clean off. Like, they were having these torrential downpours everywhere, but the only building that literally the roof got blown off the place was where they were filming. And then it's like the priest appendix blows up. Then some dude almost dies of a mysterious illness. And so the next clip that I do want to quickly play, and I know we're probably going to touch upon this movie, but it's in line with this. Like, I feel like in these movies, notice how there's all these crazy mysterious illnesses that happen. So this is from a movie that we touched upon, and I think we can probably segue into it after playing this, but just check this out.
That you got like physical stuff happened to you. The Conjuring is it's a yeah. What a lovely shot. I feel like I want to throw darts into my mouth or something. But I guess that's really selling the fear. So it is a fun acting challenge. Oh, it was amazing. But yeah, it was pretty intense. Some weird stuff happened on set, along with the movie being scary. It's true. I developed this bizarre, rare, out of nowhere blood disorder, and basically my body, like all the red platelets from my body were like drained. They were just like gone. So I had like high risk of internal bleeding, and I was potentially going to need like a blood transfusion. It was so dramatic. So I had to every day before work and after work go to the hospital, get my blood taken, and then all of a sudden I got home and I've never had a problem with my blood since. Like, don't you think that's crazy? Yes. I think it's crazy. Is it true?
That's literally how I feel. Drew Barrymore is like my reaction. I'm like, don't you think that's nuts? Like,
she's like, that's fine.
She's like, I literally went home and I didn't have any blood infection issues. Like, that's not something that just like poof, like it just
especially when
disappears.
It's a super rare disease or issue.
And she's a celebrity, so you know that she has, like, it's not like one of like us everyday citizens where we go to a hospital and they're like, well, your leg could be falling off or you could have an ear infection. I mean,
it's true.
It's, one extreme to another. So it's like she has some of the best doctors probably like in the world, and they're like, hey, you have a rare blood infection. Oh, okay.
Oh, shit.
So
crazy.
The Conjuring. I think, did we have The Conjuring on this list? We had The Conqueror.
No, I don't think we did. I mean, honestly, we don't have to go through all of these, but like The Conjuring, I feel like should be one that's a good one to talk about.
Yeah. So, let me pull up because I did have something.
While we wait, we'll put some.
Our intermission
I don't
music.
like that one. It's creepy as shit.
So I'll play this clip.
Emotional damage. Emotion.
I don't like
it. Was just playing with all the.
Yeah.
So apparently, a lot of people had they had a ton of issues with like the Conjuring, like there's been multiple interviews where they're like, hey, did you ever experience anything supernatural on set? And
into your head or not?
Here's a clip about The Conjuring as well.
They start off shooting by having a priest come and bless the set because of previous encounters that the other actors have had. I think that you tend to get in your head a little bit.
That's wild.
But yes, I have.
I haven't.
Actually. They asked her if she was like the little girl in The Conjuring in the first one, and they had asked her if she had had any supernatural experiences ever on set because she was in Ghostbusters Afterlife. And so there was, like she said, the set was blessed before filming. So the producers and cast were so unnerved that they had a priest bless the set before filming like even started. And this is apparently not a normal practice on horror sets. I kind of agree to disagree, but they felt it was necessary. And some believe the blessing only stirred the energy up rather than protecting the crew. So some of the things that kind of happened was there were creepy phone glitches while they were writing the script. So while the screenwriter Chad Hayes and his brother were interviewing the Perrin family, their phones began cutting out and making strange static noises even mid-interview. And then eventually all communication stopped and their lines went dead, only to resume later with no explanation. And could that be coincidence? 100%. But it's just a little odd. Another thing was there was a mysterious fire during filming. Director James Wan, Vera Farmiga, and other crew members were staying at a hotel. Farmiga. I always say Farmiga. Vera Farmiga and other crew members were staying at a hotel near the set when a fire mysteriously broke out and forced them to evacuate. And no cause at all was ever found. And they thought that it was seen as a warning or an attempt to disrupt the film's completion. And then I'm going to show a clip. For this one, it's there were unexplained claw marks. So Vera Farmiga, who portrayed Lorraine Warren, refused to take the script home with her. Like, she left it on set every day and was like, I'm not bringing that home with me. And she reported that she woke up after going home with three waking up with 3 claw-like scratches on her leg, which appeared overnight. And she shows a picture of this in this clip. And obviously, as we all know, the 3 scratch, 3 knocks, 3 anything motif is classically associated with demonic attacks mocking the Holy Trinity. So here's that clip. Or maybe not. Apparently, I lost my clip.
Please hold.
Please hold. Oh, I was like, what the fuck is that?
Sorry, it's my ass.
Terrifying. Here, Taylor's playing DJ again.
I got it set up and ready to go. We're gonna feed the ducks now.
All right, here it is.
Some claw marks appeared on my thigh.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Look at that. Overnight, like,
Have some holy water.
that's not like a little graze or like something, you know, who knows? Maybe you like maybe you scratched your thigh, or your partner scratched your thigh with their barking dogs, you know, their feeties, their talons. You know, it could happen, but like 3 deep scratches like that, I think is it's odd. And then the last one that I have was she was brought in as kind of like a stunt double. And she was not told what she was working on until like, obviously, like she was in it filming. So this clip was interesting.
Movie Untitled. I wasn't allowed to know what it was. Show up on the lot, and before I even enter the soundstage, I am pushed back by a freezing cold air. Like icicles were kind of wrapping around my neck. I kept hearing hissing sounds on different parts of the set, and it wasn't like equipment, it was animal hissing sounds. One of the ADs pulls me aside to fill out my contract because I got the job, and they left me alone in this like production office. As I was in there, the lights started flickering on and off. I felt things clawing at my ankles, and then eventually on my right shoulder, I felt a tap and I heard whispering, "Get out." Did I mention that I was on the set of The Conjuring 2? This is a crazy story. If you want to hear the rest, go to my podcast, Psychic Scoop.
So I thought that was interesting. So she was brought on like not as like a main actor, didn't know what she was working on, only to find out that she's experiencing all these things, and she is in fact on the set of The Conjuring. There's just like a lot to these curse sets and these curse movies. I mean, we could literally, I feel like we might even have to do a part 2 on this, because it's already after 7 and there is still so much to kind of be talked about. The one thing that I kind of wanted to touch upon is I feel like we need to address and like kind of talk about what a curse is and like what that's defined as, and like, you know, why do we think that there's curses created on film sets? So when we talk about a curse often in folklore, witchcraft, and spiritual belief systems is a negative energy or intention directed at a person, object, or space with the purpose or side effect of causing harm, misfortune, or persistent bad luck. And curses are typically tied to either a violation of sacred or spiritual boundaries, acts of exploitation or injustice, intense emotional energy such as fear, grief, anger, or pain, and spoken words, rituals, or symbols that are imbued with intention. And in an occult term, a curse doesn't always have to be intentional, because if you like, I'm sure me and Taylor can speak to this from our Italian side, but Malocchio, the evil eye, there's a reason we put peppers on our rearview mirror and we wear horns around our neck. And like the evil eye is you could literally and even in witchcraft, if you're driving your car and you're like, oh, this asshole just cut me off, I hope you have a fucking terrible day. Like, you're not thinking about it, but you're just like, God, like your emotion and how you're feeling in that moment is so strong that it could very well evoke a baby curse or a malintention. Like there's a malicious intent behind it. And it's not that you're like consciously like, I want something bad to happen to this person, but you're frustrated in the moment and it's an emotion and you're applying it at something. And that's kind of like the theory here is, you know, these people day in, day out are on these sets. They're getting into character. When you're in character, like if you see the way that some of these like actors, like in order to be a really good actor, you have to prepare and you have to like genuinely convince yourself that this is who you are for a set amount of time so that you can do the job, I think, efficiently and really sell it. So if you're like you've had this story made up, well, some of it's like based on a true story, but some of them, even like fiction, you have this story made up and you have to believe in it for it to look good. And I feel like you know, that could contribute to it too. But how are curses created on film sets? That's the question here. And these curses on sets often share, I would say, like specific patterns, which point to a few compelling theories about how a film set might become cursed. So one, and we can kind of give an example of this, but invoking real spirits, entities, or rituals. Taylor, shoot, what movies come to mind or shows or anything where they have used rituals? Or there's like one movie in the 90s that comes to mind that was like a big fad.
I mean, the first thing that came to my mind, like when you define rituals, though, do you mean like rituals like doing something or
like spell casting or using like real spells or like reenacting a ritual but using real like
I mean, the first thing that my brain just thought of was Halloween Town.
Oh yeah, okay, so that's a happier version.
That's what made me think of.
I was thinking of like The Craft.
That was the second thing I was thinking of. No, because when you said that at first, the first thing that came into my mind, and it's not so much a ritual, it's more like a exorcism thing. Like it made me think of The Possession.
Oh,
but
that's another good one.
That's more of like a exorcism than it is like a ritual, I guess.
Yeah, but I feel like even in an exorcism, you have to speak Latin and you have to invoke. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what I'm saying is when you're doing, if you have to sell an exorcism and make it look real. These people are spending time with like Vera Farmiga. She spent a lot of time with Lorraine Warren on that first movie because she wanted to learn her mannerisms and she had to become Lorraine Warren. She had to sell it. And I feel like when you're doing an exorcism, I mean, you're going to spend time with priests or they're going to bring certain dialect coaches on and you really have to sell that. And so if you're going to do an exorcism and you're going to bring about that energy, like you are actually exorcising something, I mean, I feel like that could kick something up. And so when you're evoking real spirits, entities, or rituals, movies like The Exorcist, Poltergeist, and the show American Horror Stories Coven, they used real incantations and relics and referenced real spiritual systems such as, you know, like Taylor brought up, Catholic exorcisms, voodoo, or witchcraft. And the belief is that when real practices are misused for entertainment, they can invite energies that don't take kindly to mockery. And so these sets may act as portals, kind of creating powerful intention charged atmospheres that summon something more than fiction. Another thing is, and again, this is going to come back to poltergeist, is disturbing sacred ground or historical trauma. So I think some films were shot on or near Native American land, burial grounds, battlefields, or former asylums. And that comes down to the movies Poltergeist, The Omen, and Pet Sematary. And these locations may already be energetically charged, and disruption without respect or spiritual permission could awaken unrest. And the land, one of the things that we always say is the land remembers. So, I don't know. Do you want to read the next one, Taylor?
Yeah, but
about using like human remains.
Before I get into that quick, before we move on to the next thing, another movie that I thought of, Practical Magic, and I just went to go look to see.
I have the clip for that.
I didn't even know if like there was anything that happened, and I did look. Does it talk about like the witch consultant or anything like that?
Yeah. Do you want me to play it?
Yeah, I won't say it then. I'll let you play it so that I'm not repeating.
Despite being paid a large amount of money for her involvement, the witch consultant wanted more, including a cookbook publication and a cut from the film's profits. When she didn't get her way initially, she left the director a chilling curse on his voicemail. Despite being paid a second time, film staff and their family members experienced a sudden death, poor reviews, and a disappointing box office performance. As the film wrapped, the final step was to perform an actual exorcism out of caution. As Griffin Dunn puts it, I do think that there are certain powers that go into wishing ill will. If you believe in a kind of higher power, you're open to beliefs in many things. But with that open-mindedness comes risk. You don't get to pick and choose. If you open the door to one thing, it's hard to deny other things.
So it's just like a short clip. It doesn't go into too much detail, so you can elaborate on it.
Yeah, I mean, basically it just says that they hired a practicing witch to serve as a consultant for the film, aiming for like authenticity. But then like when the witch later demanded a share of the film's profits, it led to a threatened curse. But on top of that, they also said too, apparently that the cast and crew reported that apparently they all experienced a supernatural atmosphere within the house set. So like some people even like said that they heard noises while filming the coven scene.
Oh, and you know what's crazy about that is a lot of people don't know that the Practical Magic house is not actually a house. It was literally just a built set. So like that's very interesting and kind of speaks to the whole energy thing.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the way I did in school because I was so busy looking at Practical Magic and you were talking about that. And I feel like the teacher's like, "Do you want to continue?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And I have no idea where we're at on our fucking thing right now.
No, you want to pick it up?
Yeah, sure, buddy. Popcorn.
So again, coming back to using human remains or blood, obviously I think anybody with just common sense knows that this is a terrible idea. Like unless you have some sort of spiritual permission, which a lot of the times I think just out of pure respect, even if they were like, hey, throw my body on the freaking table and just put me up for display, like it still would feel wrong. Like maybe we don't do that. And so using real skeletons, human teeth, or blood in props, as in the Poltergeist, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is just a major taboo in many belief systems. And for those of you that don't know, in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there was a lot of like animal remains, human remains, like a lot of bones and stuff that were used, and teeth and human hair. It was just really, and it was like legit. It wasn't prop stuff. And so if it's done, if you're disturbing remains and you're misusing human remains, it's believed that you can bind spirits to the place or item, especially if it's done without proper ritual or respect. And then kind of getting into emotional and energetic imprinting. A film set is a charged emotional space. So this is kind of what we talked about before. Actors are going to cry, they're going to scream, they're going to experience simulated death, trauma, and fear all captured in the ether. And one of the best examples of this is the movie The Shining. Shelley Duvall did The Shining, and she talked about Stanley Kubrick, I think is how you say his name. He pushed her to the absolute max, so much so that he literally left her with lifelong trauma. She did a certain scene over and over and over and over again. And because she was so in character and she did it so well, that it literally left her with trauma. And those emotions that happen on set 100% left, a lasting imprint. And, it can leave this energy over time, can leave imprints on the location or the objects. And it's basically like a spiritual echo chamber. And so it sets, sets especially such as like The Conjuring or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or sets that have like very violent genres to them. They tend, like violence, possession, suffering. It may act like emotional batteries that never really get discharged. Another thing to kind of visit, and we didn't really get to talk about a couple of these movies, but exploitation and suffering of cast and crew. There are some producers and directors that I think it's worth mentioning that they're so focused on the success of their movie that sometimes they don't always take the best care of the people that are making this movie for them. And when greed and when you take the humanitarian part out of movie making and you let your greed and your ego kind of run, that's when things get kind of sticky. And so many cursed productions involved real human suffering, from child actors being abused, like The Wizard of Oz and Glee, to extreme working conditions, such as The Crow and the Twilight Zone movie. When a space becomes a site of real trauma or injustice, that energy will linger, much like how haunted houses become haunted. And it's not ghosts, but it's the memory of pain that just like it doesn't forget. It's an imprint. And then the biggest thing is mass belief creates a thought form. So again, kind of coming back to this, in occult theory, when people believe something is cursed, their collective belief around this can actually manifest that energy into a reality. And this is called a tulpa, or egregore, and it's a psychic entity created by thought alone. And if fans, actors, and the public believe that a set is cursed, it starts to act cursed. So why so many curse movies? Hollywood is a unique cocktail, and I think the conspiracy theorists in us all have watched countless TikTok videos, about this, that, and the other thing, about how Hollywood kind of gets down and dirty and some of the weird things that take place in Hollywood that we're not even privy to knowing. And I'm kind of glad that I don't know about. And so it's a unique cocktail of high emotion, massive intention, wild egos, and exploitation, uses of powerful symbols and religious spiritual elements, and locations are often chosen with deep, often buried history. And all of these factors are like ingredients in a spiritual pressure cooker. Film is modern day myth making, and when we mess with death, spirits, magic, or suffering in careless ways, some believe that we stir up things that really shouldn't be disturbed. So,
just leave it be.
Yeah,
please
don't use real skeletons in your.
God. Dude, I'd be haunting the shit out of people if my body was thrown into a muddy pool. Like, I don't blame the people who resided in those bodies.
Yeah, and there was a lot.
I'd pull, remember how we were talking about SpongeBob the other day? I would pull a SpongeBob in the episode where his hat and his hand is in the thing. I would somehow get myself, maybe that's why ghosts end up in movies, because they just want their SpongeBob moment.
Maybe.
That's what I'm
doing. Hey, do you want to
like,
know?
Mom, I'm on TV.
Their hat.
Just
do
my
you
favorite.
want to know a fun fact that I didn't know?
What?
So when I was little, I had a like absolutely sick ADHD, ADD fueled fixation obsession, and I loved The Wizard of Oz. Like, I literally tried to go to my aunt's prom I thought my Dorothy dress was like my evening attire, and I got my ruby red slippers on and my Dorothy dress, and I literally hopped in her limo and was like, all right, let's go, girls. Like, I was obsessed. And I did not know how dark and fucked up The Wizard of Oz was. Like, I knew like Judy Garland, she like her history is really sad, but I didn't realize how jacked up it is. And I didn't know that the Cowardly Lion costume was made of real lion.
He was sweating really bad. Yeah,
yeah, that's what
like he had moments where because he had to be in it for hours, and they said that like he was on like the verge of passing out all the time because it was so hot in the suit.
Yeah, it said Bert Lahr's costume weighed nearly 90 pounds and it reeked. And they said the sweat-soaked real animal pelt was incredibly heavy and required frequent cleaning and drying between takes. I mean, like, that's insane. I didn't know that. But it was sad because so many of them like died young, or they lived out sad, very like removed kind of endings, like they isolated.
Yeah, and I even remember hearing too, the Tin Man. He like got really bad lead poisoning because the makeup that they put on him, it had like straight up lead in it.
Yeah, did you hear about the Wicked Witch too with her makeup? No. How it had copper. So when she had that, this sounds fucking awful. Like, I would be so upset. They had a drop door. So when the flame came up and the poof of smoke, she was supposed to, like, the door was supposed to open. She was supposed to drop into like the cushion pit, and then the flames would come up because the door would already be closed. She should have been out of the way. Well, apparently the drop door failed. So when she was supposed to drop out, the flames shot up and gave her 3rd-degree burns. But because her makeup was made of copper, the copper was heated up and it basically continued to burn down into her skin. Like, her makeup was burnt onto her skin and it continued to like burn her. And I was like, that you just wouldn't. It's so weird because like you watch the movie, and I remember being a kid and I'm like, it always like was so happy, and I was like, what a great movie. But then as an adult, like you start to find out like the dark side of it, and you're like, damn.
Yeah, I remember hearing too. I don't know if it was true or if it was just a rumor, but I remember for the movie, I think people had said that Judy Garland was put on a diet of like cigarettes and coffee all the time just to keep her weight intact. I don't know if that was true or not, but I remember hearing
it was true. That was in her like Hollywood story.
Yeah. And there was even something too about the fields. I don't remember what it was. Like
the poppy fields. Weren't they poisonous?
Yeah, it wasn't. No, there was something about why am I blanking on what's in asbestos? There was something about asbestos on set. Something was made out of asbestos. Maybe it was the snow I'm thinking of.
Maybe.
They used to use asbestos in the movie.
Dang. Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, I just think
it was the poppy field scene. Fake snow was asbestos.
Oh my god. See, and this is what's so crazy is like they were definitely not checking any of this. And I honestly think out of all the movies that I've kind of researched or like looked up, this one seems to be the like if any set is going to be cursed and haunted, it's got to be this one, because the amount of exploitation and suffering that went on in this and the amount of like snafu that happened, just like not good at all.
Yeah. This is why the older generations were like, you're fine. And then meanwhile, they've got like lead poisoning, 5 different types of cancers. They've got like so many cysts and like
copper makeup.
Yeah, right? They're like, you're fine. They probably smoked cigarettes that had like straight up poison in them. No, you're fine. You'll be okay.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, back then.
Fine, I'm still here.
Yeah.
It's like, it's fine.
Honestly,
I'm still here. Like dying.
Some of them are just like living life, and they're like, they've literally just been through, they've like had mercury poisoning, asbestos poisoning. I don't know. It's craziness. But the amount of curse sets, I really feel like we need to do a part 2 on this because we have so much great information.
We didn't even we made like a dent.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought this was going to be relatively easy to go through. But yeah, I mean, there's so much, and I feel like you know, I had a friend, and I was telling Matt this story today. Who works for Rockstar Games, and he was telling me that they have a lot of the times, besides the movies, they just have like haunted sound stages. So like when you make a video game, a lot of the video games that we have today, the reason they look so movie like is because they're kind of shot like a movie, but they use a lot of CGI and green screen suits and like special tactics. So they'll have like body actors and they use these big sound stages and they basically make a production. And what's crazy is you know, he was telling me that on their like lunch breaks and stuff, they would always bring their paranormal equipment to work, and then they would go and investigate some of the sound stages because they had one particular sound stage where like it was old. It was one of the older ones. And so they had shot like movies on there, and they had, you know, it was used for a lot of stuff, and it had like a lot of history. And he's like, we would get the craziest EVPs, things would get thrown, like it was just nuts. So there's a whole list of those that we have to go through because there's so many sound stages that people are not aware of, and they have some interesting stories attached to them. Yeah.
Shit, man.
So we only have a couple minutes, but like, do you want to open up the floor for people? Yeah. If you have to jump at 7:30 and people are still kind of on and chatting, you can feel free to, you got hip it a hop.
Irish goodbye.
Yeah, you can just bye. Don't even say anything. Just literally just like.
Just fucking, and then I'm going to hear you go, oh.
Oh.
I'm going to have the live open and she'll be like, oh, she's gone.
So yeah, so if any of you want to hop on, quickly, I'm posting the StreamYard link in the chat, and you can use that to check out. Oh, let me see, JC, same initials. I'm reading. I always forget to check our Instagram comments. I didn't know that about Joey King, The Craft. I think you can travel, and if I knew they were making a bio, oh my gosh. Yeah, oh gosh, it didn't post to our Twitch. I don't know why. Well, yeah, if you want to join, hop on. We have one Twitch watcher and one on YouTube. I'm very excited.
Cool. Imagine it's actually
usually it's all Facebook. But yeah, if you want to like hop on and tell us either some of your horror movie like experiences. One of the things that I was kind of hoping to hear from people about, and I don't know about you, and you kind of touched upon this earlier, and I was hoping we were going to bring it up at some point, but when we always make the joke that on the Ghoulfriend Hour, when we talk about certain things, weird shit happens. And so, like, do you remember, was it Demon House, when Zach Bagans came out with Demon House?
Yeah.
So, like, I remember we were... where were we? I think we might have been at my brother and my sister-in-law's, and we were hanging out with my mother-in-law, and it was like late at night. So everybody was kind of sleeping, and she's like, "Oh, do you want to watch this?" And we were kind of looking at each other, and I had a weird feeling. I was like, I don't know if we should watch this right now. This just seems like bad juju. And we kind of like sat there for a second, and I was like, you know what? Maybe we skip this, because there was like warnings in the beginning of it, and I just felt like everything around it just felt like if I watch this, I'm gonna go home tonight, I'm gonna have some like a psychic attack, or I'm gonna have bad dreams, or it just did not feel good. So I would love to hear like people's stories. Like, people have said they've played Phasmophobia and had weird things happen, or like people have watched movies and weird things have happened. And I know another good example is even books, because I've never in my life thrown a book out so fast than I did. And the worst part was I really loved it. It was such a good book.
I don't remember what book it was, but I remember you telling me about it, and you were like,
Deliver Us from Evil.
Yeah.
It was Deliver Us from Evil, and I'll never forget. I was in my apartment, and Matt was on night work, and so I was like really like reading this book, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I hope one day I get to talk to him. And I went to bed that night, and I was sleeping, and something woke me up out of my sleep, which is not like an uncommon occurrence, but I could feel the presence, but I didn't see it anywhere. And I'm like, okay, like, what is that? So I'm like, I'm just going to go back to sleep. And usually most of the time, Spirit's pretty respectful. So like, if I just kind of say, hey, not right now, and I go back to bed, whatever this was, when I tell you, it felt like a grown man sat down in between my legs, like, because I sleep like a number 4. So like, you know how I don't really know how to explain that, but like I
know
like
what you mean.
like,
I got you.
my little leg tucked, and I felt the bed like sink, and it felt like a very like bigger than Matt, like a big man sat down on my bed, and I shot up because my first instinct was like, if that's an intruder, like if somebody's in my house, like because I was like at that point it was like physical, and so I sat up and my bedroom door was closed. I never heard it open. And if I would have sat up that fast, I wouldn't have had time to like get to my door without me seeing them. So it was really weird. And it left me with like, it wasn't a good feeling. It wasn't like a normal spirit visit. It was like something just very dark and sinister. And I didn't like the way that it made me feel. And I stayed up literally until Matt came home in the morning. And it was scary. And the first thing I did was I got up and I threw that shit right into the dumpster and never had any issues after that. And it was, like I said, I was really bummed. Yeah, it was a really good book. So.
Guess we'll never know how it ended.
I got to such a good part too. Like it really was interesting to read about some of his cases. I like read about a bunch of them and I'm like, I don't know how these families did it, like the stuff they went through. So it was definitely recommend it, but I would be very cautious. And that's the first time I've ever had to say that about a book. I don't know what it is about it. It's one of my favorite movies, but I couldn't get through the book. So
I think one of the most scary like movies that we've already touched based upon, but like one of the scariest movies I think I was the most terrified about when it first came out was The Conjuring, because I remember that was the one, right, where like in the movie theaters they put the warning, and there were some theaters that had like they had a priest come in to exorcise the room. Was that what that was? And I don't even care if it was like, I don't care if it was for advertising, like to get people
promotional
talking, but it was like, because this is when I was more like self-conscious of life and stuff, like, and I started like realizing things more. So for me, this was like my version of what people dealt with when the Blair Witch Project came out. Like when I wish I was more well aware of that time, but I was like a kid, I think, when that movie came out, so I didn't even know until I got older. But like the feeling I would have felt to have seen that poster that the director posted everywhere, and like you couldn't just go on the internet and you couldn't just look up the actors because that wasn't a thing back then. So when they put up the missing posters everywhere, people were like genuinely terrified. Like they were scared that these 3 people were actually missing, and this was actual footage of what had happened. So like that for me, like hearing about The Conjuring and watching those triggers and those like warning things, I was petrified to watch that movie going into it.
Well, did you hear about how the directors, like how they created that like atmosphere, like what they did to them?
No.
It's insane. They literally took the actors and they dropped them off in the woods with like little food, no script, and like it was just like improv. Mm-hmm. And they basically would just leave them notes daily to kind of like guide the improv, but they deliberately manipulated their stress and fear to make it seem real. So a lot of the reactions were them kind of like slowly losing it, like on camera. And I was like, oh my God, like that's so fucked up. And so basically the crew kept them. Like this is one of those instances where the exploitation and the treatment, I think, comes into play. But it was considered a cursed movie cast because they kept them sleep deprived, confused, and isolated. So they started having like attacks, like while they were like panic attacks and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And they basically, like, anytime they would try to sleep, the directors would like send people out to stage like scare
Sounds and
them
stuff?
so that like
Ooh.
they're in the middle of the woods, like, and then somebody comes, like you're dead asleep and you're thinking, okay, I'm good, like I'm gonna get some rest, and they would
Yeah.
basically just keep jolting them out of their sleep and scaring them with shit so that they were just like sleep deprived and all messed up. And so
that's sad hearing that now, because like we all to this day, lots of people make fun of that scene where she's got the snots coming out of her nose. That shit's
that was real.
Human. That's so
Yeah.
sad, and I feel so assholey to like think of that as funny.
Literally, it's one of the most famous emotional breakdowns on camera, but like it was legitimate. Like she was having an emotional breakdown, and she even talked about how like later she struggled like really bad mentally because she had trauma from like filming this, and she was harassed by tons of fans who like people like who were thinking that the movie was real and that these people were missing. And so like she had fans that were like, oh my God, like they thought she died, and they'd see her in public and be like, we got to get you to your family, and she's like, it's a movie, like,
Oh my God.
and like it was like a whole thing. So yeah, so they used, and they also used their real names, which like I feel like that alone. Yeah.
That's just like that's like a one of a kind type of movie. Like even if it's not scary to people, like the shit that they went through, like people don't do that. That's crazy. That's like almost as bad as the cannibal Holocaust. The shit that like you hear about that fucking movie. It's
and that was
crazy.
one of the ones featured on our list too that had real remains.
Mm-hmm. Well, didn't they
like,
say
what
that
the
like there
hell?
was rumors or something that like there was an actual like real tribe or something, like an actual group of people that they came across or something like that?
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, it's there's so many things that I did not know about the scary movies that we like have come to know and love.
Yeah.
And I'm like, some of these are really unethical.
It's creepy as shit.
But yeah. So going once, going twice. If you want to join our live, Taylor's we gotta get Taylor out of here because Taylor needs to have girl dinner. Girl dinner.
You gotta eat some sustenance.
Some sustenance.
Sustenance.
So you have like 2 minutes to hop on. If you want to hop on now. It's not looking promising. I'm not getting into butts.
We're not feeling it tonight, Mr. Krabs.
Maybe part 2 we'll be able to kind of squeeze some of y'all in. But yeah, so thanks for joining tonight, and stay tuned for part 2, and maybe even Rachel will find some extra stuff that we don't know about true crime related in the movie sector.
She'll come back with the good stuff.
Hell yeah. But yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, check us out on all of our socials. I'm not going to list them all, but because we have like Instagram, TikTok, yeah, it's a list. We have a website where if you have trouble locating any of our socials, everything's on there as well. It's the Ghoulfriend Hour podcast.
We also have trouble locating things at times.
Pretty much, yeah. We're doing our best. But as always, stay weird, everybody, and we will catch you on the flippity flip. Bye.
Bye.